Vanta STEM.
Oh wow, lovely. Cool. Can you hear us without the microphone? Is that all right? Yeah? All right, cool.
We're going to go for old school
volume projecting.
It's definitely the biggest projector I've ever presented on. So that's an honor and a privilege. I think we'd like to start off by thanking Rochelle and the entire Elevate team for inviting us here today. We actually started our master's degrees almost about 10 years ago. So it's a real full cycle moment to be back here, and collaborating with them since they've started has also been really inspirational, motivational, and that collaboration has brought so much fruition. So I think we'd just like to start off by just everyone giving them a round of applause for the wonderful work they've been doing. And yeah, Ali also owes me £5 now. I made a bet with him that I could get you guys to give us a round of applause within 60 seconds. So we've ticked that one off. But what we're here to talk about today, we titled Collaborate to Elevate. And when we were thinking about this presentation and this talk, we thought the best way we could go about it is by telling our stories, of which Kingston plays a really pivotal role. And not only, I think it's kind of twofold, but we're going to look at that in a bit more detail. So I'll hand over Ali, maybe just to take us maybe slightly before our Kingston days.
Flashback.
You can talk us through this picture.
Oh God, oh God, he really digs them out, doesn't he? This is actually before, this is during my undergraduate degree at Reading. I see a bit of a knucklehead, this guy. Thinks he's maybe a little bit too cool, clearly not adhering to the correct PPE requirements. That's safe to say I didn't know much, and it was really a case of throwing ourselves into the slightly daunting professional world after the comfort of being a student and maybe not paying as much responsibility to my studies as I should have. But hey, it was quite I guess, a heavy introduction into the career. Not having support in the same way as I guess students are finding nowadays. It really was just diving into the deep end and seeing if we could swim. So over to Clive to...
That's right. And if you thought that was bad PPE, here's me doing a demonstration of all the things you're not meant to do in the lab. And that was actually the purpose of the picture, just a disclaimer there. But I think it kind of represents the stage I was at in life as well. There were tools around me, kind of, for example, the stool that I was not using. Clearly a better way to get oxygen into the blood system as well. But I think at the time, it was with kind of moving out of the nest, starting university, and realizing at the time that, it's quite a challenging industry to get into. And also there are quite a few different challenges that you have to meet as well. I think we both kind of bought into the narrative that you do a degree and you're going to get a job once you're done with it. And so whilst you're in university, you can enjoy and indulge in other activities as well. So I think we were swiftly humbled by the time that we graduated and realized that actually for entry-level jobs, some of the jobs they wanted 10 years experience and a PhD, which was quite unrealistic, especially when the salaries weren't great. And we graduated around the time of the credit crunch as well. So very challenging times, and roles weren't widely available. So
it was terrible.
it was difficult. It was tough, but we realized that, okay, we're probably going to have to regroup. And so I think we both traveled to get our first experience.
I moved to Australia, lived out there, and found a job surprisingly easily. Don't be afraid to travel. I'm sure that there's international students here as well, so probably preaching to the wrong crowd. But sometimes you do need to go some distance to find what you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think it's important to increase your scope of search. I think initially we're based in London, we want to work in London, whereas actually when you get into the industry, you find out that most pharmaceutical industries are tucked away in the bushes somewhere where there's not actually much activity. So we decided to increase our scope. We both got our first experience and realized that actually it would probably be beneficial to our education and our academic knowledge to the next level. So rewind back to October 2023, almost 10 years to the day.
2013.
Yeah, 2013, sorry. Yeah.
I was like, that's now.
Yeah, that's now. Yeah, 10 years ago today. We were probably not in this building, but on the other side, figuring out our inductions. And back then, we had a really diverse team of students at the time. And again, I don't know what I was doing here. It looks like I was demonstrating some chemical bonding or carbon bonding here,
that's
and
it.
bringing everyone together.
Bringing the team together.
Even in this picture, you can see we had loads of different people. I don't think there's anyone from the same country in this picture. We had Moroccans, we had Egyptians, people from Dublin, Greece, Ghana. And so it was a real diverse hotbed. And what you find with diversity is that everyone's got a different insight, everyone's got different backgrounds. And we also had different skill sets as well. So, for example, Ali was a master note taker, and I'm not great at taking notes, I'll be honest. So when exams were coming around, I would literally take his notes, photocopy all of them, and that was my textbook. And
there was a queue of people just like, please can you? Got to help the team. Got to help the team. Meanwhile, Clive was a masterful, natural public speaker and presenter. So I'm sure he was fulfilling that role as group in group projects as the presenter. So yeah, it's all about harboring your teammates and your peer support, and yeah, everyone's trying to win. We gotta win together, and it's, I guess, the foundation for this idea of collaboration really started for us at Kingston, and
exactly,
yeah, it's formed the basis for where we are now. But before we get too far with it,
yeah, I think that was the first example of collaborating to elevate. And fortunately, we graduated, so that was the next step. Pink was definitely in fashion that year, and yeah, I think it was a real proud point of reflection. Our undergraduate results probably not so great, but for our master's degree,
questionable.
Ali was pretty much top of the class. He was an amazing student, really diligent, and he really pushed us and drove us all to achieve. And I think I got a merit, which was a lot better than my undergraduate degree, and was something to be proud of as well. So we were able to enter the industry. I started off in the pharmaceutical industry. Ali moved into the chemical sciences and forensics, and we kind of stayed friends through early parts of our career journey. This is us at the Science Museum, where they run a late evening session for adults.
Really grown.
Again, that was quite a few years ago. Ali's dreads weren't as long back then.
Yeah.
My afro was not as nice as it is today. So, again, I think one of the really important things about our friendship at the time was the accountability. And early on in our career, if I was applying for a job, I'd go to Ali and he'd look at my CV and give me some tips and pointers. And he'd do the same for me as well. And it worked when we were looking for promotions and we were going through different challenges. It was great to have that soundboard and someone that could relate to the challenges I was going through, and we could talk through them. And I think sometimes when you think of mentorship, you think you need someone 10, 20, 30 years ahead of you, but actually sometimes you just need someone who's going to go on that journey with you. So we've been friends for a while, and we kind of gone through different stages and motivated each other. If Ali gets a promotion, I'm over the moon, but I'm thinking, okay, Clive, I've got to step my game up. If we're both going on holiday together, he's buying all the drinks next time. So
same way as if Clive is asking for a salary increase, I'm like, oh wow, that's a serious number that you've just proposed to your employer. Hold on, I need to start thinking the same way. So yeah, the idea of collaboration is really strong, and I think that we've empowered each other and just constantly leveled up because of that.
That's right. And I think it was really interesting listening to Ali's speech as well, because I think, again, we found that great minds think alike. And so if we fast forward to 2020, and as Ali mentioned, George Floyd, I think that was minutes that changed everyone's perspective on the world that we live in. And the social media aspect of it brought us all together, even though we were world apart. And although this was happening in America, there are things that happen similarly all over the world to different ethnicities, and we were really had a call to action. As mentioned, it was in the middle of the pandemic, so we're thinking to ourselves, are we going out in the pandemic to protest? Are we signing petitions? What can we do, especially in our area of expertise, to address the inequality and inequity?
And it was a serious issue, particularly in, I'm a chemist, Clive's in pharmaceutical sciences, major issue. I think there's, for example, in academia, there's, as far as I'm aware, one black chemistry professor, which is just crazy. So yeah, we realized that this topic was incredibly relevant to STEM in general. Yeah, it was a call to action for us. So how could we turn from these, lab misfits, I think you called us.
That's right.
To something that we could be proud of, you know. And at the time, my sister actually wrote a book, very timely book about racism in general, and it was very fortunate. You know, she became a Sunday Times bestseller, and I was just like, what am I doing? What are we doing? How can we do something that's going to make, you know, beneficial change in our area of influence?
Yeah, and I think again back to what Ali's saying. Whilst they were in our bedrooms, we were in our bedrooms thinking
exactly.
about what we could all do. And one of the key things was that actually there had been loads of trials and tribulations that we had been through on our journey, and we had just figured them out between ourselves. If we could give our younger self some advice, what would we do? And a lot of it would be around mentorship. It'd be teaching what are called soft skills. We call them power skills. Things like communicating, how to strategize, how to present. Probably not spoken about and are as equally important as the technical side of things as well. So we thought actually the best way to do it is to become mentors, not only for our younger selves, but for people like yourselves today, students who are going through many of the challenges that we went through, and providing our experience of kind of going up that mountain. If someone's been up there and there's a bit of a path, it tends to make it a bit easier. So that's what we sought to do, and that led to the formation of Vanta STEM.
Okay, yeah, so Vanta STEM, as Clive mentioned, started in 2020, same time as Elevate, as you now know. What we do essentially is we're trying to create a culture of nurturing the next generation to achieve excellence in STEM beyond the limitations of racial and social inequity. That's the sort of mission statement and tagline that we stick by. In order to achieve those goals, we have a set of values. The first one is the self, something that we feel that is one of the only things that you can control. So we sort of depict it as a flower. So around the central self, you have self-belief, self-discipline, self-control, self-motivation, self-esteem. You know, these are ideas which are very, very powerful and transformative if you are able to put yourself in a position where you can embrace that, or if you're able to be exposed to mentors or people that you trust who can sort of reinforce those ideas in you. And so this is like your first foundation. Then you have technical excellence. Given that it's STEM, this is really, I mean, one of the main bases. You have to come with your technical skills. But people forget to consider sometimes that it's not just about the skills that are relevant to your exact discipline. You know, are you looking at market trends, for example? Have you explored skills in AI? Are you looking around at different types of software that might be beneficial, that the next person who maybe has the same degree as you, but maybe doesn't have that edge because they don't know how to use Excel in a similar way, for example. Then you have equity. I think we're in the right room to express this, but just for the sake of argument, it's really about understanding that people come from different starting platforms, and how can we address these differences to make sure that we sort of end up with an equivalent starting platform. It's not really equality, but it's equity. So the person on the bottom row needs much more of a leg up than the person who's already, you know, way up high and able to see over the fence. Finally, you have mindset, and this is sort of takes into account the three previous ones, to be honest. But really, it's about transforming yourself from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, and how that can really, I guess, introduce you to new ideas. And yeah, it's really, I guess, the thing that was most transformative in our lives, in our personal lives, in our professional lives.
Yeah, I think just adding to those values around the selfie flower, as we call it, I think self-control is really important and something that's often underrated. And in this world that we live in, there's loads of things that you're not in control of. And the one thing that you actually are in control of is yourself. So once you're aware of this, you can take action. And we found that kind of coming to that realization is really important. In terms of technical excellence, I'm sure everyone's familiar with the expression jack of all trades, master of none. But the full expression is actually jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than the master of none. And basically what it means is that, especially in this day and age, it's better to become competent in a more wide range of skills than to be the only expert that can operate this one machine that is really great but may become redundant tomorrow. So it's better to maybe to get 70% and be good and move on to another skill that you can add, and just broadening your breadth of experience. Equity, I think, yeah, as Ali mentioned, the difference between equity and equality is really important. I watched a video recently, and the example they gave was, imagine people trying to get from destination A to B. Someone's got a car, someone's going to get on the bus, and someone has to walk. If you give all of those people £5, the one who's got to walk probably may not be able to make it there. The one who's got £10, has already got a car, won't make any difference. And the one who's got a bus might make it a bit more easier. Whereas if you give the person who hasn't got anything £10, they could probably get an Uber to the destination, or a bus. If you give the second person the £5, they could probably add to their bus journey and then get an Uber. And if you give the person who's got £10, they probably don't need anything to get to that destination. And so it's just having that more rounded approach to equity and understanding where the need is. So I think from our perspective, we started off with ethnicity, but we support gender, race, all different aspects. And I think this year's theme of Black History Month is celebrating our sisters. And when we think about our sisters, they have a double layer of difficulty, not only being Black, but also being women as well. So understanding the intricacies, the challenges, the difficulties, and how we can support them as men as well, and having that empathy and understanding. I think the next slide just talks us through the services. You want to take this one, Ali?
Yeah, sure. So we've sort of touched on it all. If you just want to bring them up, this is sort of what we do around the country. We're mentors. We've engaged in a number of mentoring programs, both at Kingston University, at Greenwich University, where Clive studied. The program here is called Beyond Barriers, and with the Royal Society of Chemistry as well. So yeah, we're always happy to do this kind of work. So please do reach out to us if you want to speak about mentorship, public speaking. I mean, we're right here. We don't need to say anything more on that. Networking, very, very powerful and important skill. For us, it's about connecting people to our network, which involves, senior leadership members, recruitment agents, lab staff, graduate scheme students, and university students. So it's about having that full, well-rounded network to be able to lean on, because, yeah, back to this idea of collaborate to elevate. Without a network, it's very difficult to do that. And then finally, workshops. We've got a few different ones that we are sort of rolling out. We've done one of them here, shout out Alvia, which was called The World is Your Lab. And it was, Clive actually did the presentation here.
Yeah, I think we've got a slide on that coming up as well.
But yeah, so this is what we do. Please reach out to us, add us up on the socials. It does go a long way to help us promote this and to keep doing this work.
Yeah, I think in terms of the mentorship, one thing we've realized is that it's really powerful being able to connect with people on a one-to-one basis. One of the things we've looked at is how that we can scale that influence and be able to interact with more students. So we've got a couple of announcements that we're working on. We can't really announce them yet, but if you follow us on Instagram or LinkedIn especially, I think you'll be in for a surprise for what we've got lined up for you. So yeah, collaborate to elevate. I think one of the things we really wanted to highlight, and I think we've already touched on some of the full cycle moments we had. We both started at the same time, completely different locations. And so it shows that great minds do actually think alike, and also the importance of collaborating and playing to your strengths as well. One of the things that we realized, especially at Kingston, was that it's great to improve on your weaknesses, but sometimes the best way to do that is to collaborate with someone who has that as a strength. And through the collaboration we've had with Kingston, not only has it brought us back home to some extent, we've been able to tap in with our previous lecturers, staff, academia, graduates, and that's been really rewarding. I think even coming back into this room when we first came in,
Powerful.
We had some goosebumps because this wasn't what it was like 10 years ago. Believe it or not, it wasn't like this. So it shows how Kingston has progressed, and the fact that we're here from the lab misfits that we were is really powerful. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
So yeah, as mentioned, I think one of the key things we were looking at doing as we talk about scaling up how we communicate was to start a podcast. And as you know, sometimes it's quite challenging finding funding and starting these things up. And so it was actually through a conversation with Dr. Bao, who's one of our old lecturers, that we were able to get funding and have an application for funding from the Royal Society of Chemistry, which we recently received approval for. And that's given us a bit of funding to get that off the road. So that is really powerful, and again shows the benefits of collaborating and just talking about the ideas that you're working on as well.
We're going to be speaking to a load of black people in positions of, good influence, very inspiring role models to us, just sort of exploring their stories, their unique challenges, and how they overcame them. So yeah, keep your eye out for that.
I think, as Ali mentioned, we've done numerous mentoring programs with the Royal Society of Chemistry, Kingston Beyond Barriers, University of Greenwich, Black Pharma, to name a few. As mentioned, we did The World Is Your Lab, which was basically finding out how to kickstart your career in STEM, learning about unconventional lab roles, and discussing new exciting opportunities. Tomorrow, we've got another full cycle moment where we'll actually be presenting at the Science Museum. We've got a show called Sounds and Science, where we're going to be talking about Black history, pioneers, against some nice melodies. And then one of our core pieces of work is around cultivating your career in STEM. So how to apply for jobs in STEM, successful interview application, successful salary negotiation, and then onboarding into roles as well. Is there anything you wanted to add, Ali, to that?
No, I think we're good. And I'm almost certain we've run over, so sorry about that. Yeah, we need to work on that. We're just going to leave you with this piece here, as it's Black History Month. This is a piece of spoken word written by an artist, poet, author, and a good friend of Clive's. His name's Big Scoop. Yeah, he's very good, very, very good. And this was a very powerful piece that we asked him to put together for us in light of Black History Month. So hopefully the sound works. Sound gonna work? If you're on the back.
You see, we played our part in modernization, but they want you to think our history is rooted in colonization. To put it in black and white, history isn't just all Caucasian. Black people have played more than a role and have given more than dedication, and it's evident. The oldest intact skeleton is a man of pure black melanin. Known as the first Brit Cheddar Man, his DNA has given us measurements. You can try whitewash history, but black will always be relevant. And this information is golden. Throughout history, we had the Moors, but we also had black Tudors and Romans. Men like Septimus Severus were emperors, and as men they stood tall. He ruled over a nation and even rebuilt Hadrian's Wall. And everything I'm saying is facts, and there's sources for confirmation. You could try and name all of the great contributors and have a lifelong compilation. They say that the sky is the limit, and it must be true, because we got more stars than a constellation. Black people fought in both world wars and somehow never get mentioned, but we continue to elevate. Dedication is what we demonstrate, but for the sake of the next generation, we must continue to educate. And what I'm telling you is straight out the fax machine, because there's too many black legends that remain unseen.
Cool. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much.